Joe Budden goes off on Ian, his manager, for his controversial comments about the Shannon Sharpe and Cat Williams interview.
It wasn't meant to take away, it was to add on to a thought process that he may not be thinking at the moment. And it was to empower him, not take away from him.
That's the problem. That right there is the problem. Who says that he needs your advice?
I didn't ask Joe, I didn't expect him to take my advice. In fact, my comment of putting it out publicly,
Nobody, while this black man is on top of the world, needs to read the advice.
Joe, you came out and said too.
Hold on,
What?
time
No,
out.
no, 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 no.
Let them go. Let them talk. Yeah.
What I said.
Joe, you specifically made a comment on maybe it was Kevin Hart or uh, Shannon Sharpe's interviewing ability while he was on top, but that's directly taking away from the interview. What I said was to empower the moment and make it more powerful of a
No,
takeaway.
no, no, and no. And that's what I'm saying to you.
What are you
The,
saying?
the moment was empowered with or without what you had to say.
That doesn't
That's
take
what
away
people are
from
saying. If it's the
yeah.
most
So
viewed interview on YouTube, two black people just talking some
hmm
what makes you think that that needs even more empowering? One. Two,
hmm
I was very specific with what I said, which was, what do y'all say to the people that say Shannon's interview skills are A, B, and C? That was my question to the panel. But what I said as far as the interview was,
hmm
wow, amazing to see two black people break all these records. It's inspiring for me. And as a content creator, I'm home saying, yeah, let's kick some ass. I have not had this talk with Ian because I don't give a about this. This ain't that big of a deal to me. But if Ian were to wake up on his personal Twitter and say something that were to really affect things, we would talk about it.
But that's exactly right. I would expect you to, but I don't feel like what I said was cause for that type of conversation to ever come up because I have enough discretion to know when I'm saying something that's offensive in a way that would have an effect big enough to bring up a conversation like that.
Yo, this is
Can we have
not,
it both
I
ways?
hate that we took this to a black and white thing because what this boils down to for me is just letting people have their moments. That's not a white thing, a black thing. If a white person, if Brad Pitt, if Jerry Seinfeld sat down and did an interview and it did 100 million views, I would want that person to have his moment uninterrupted with what the fans think of how he could have gone, what he should have did, how it would have been more successful. If what the with mind your business. It's the same thing I'd be saying to Flip. So when you not letting people have their moment, it's looked at very differently than Sassy Q from Missouri who's tweeting about the interview. It's not the same.
I guess I don't look at it like, oh, when I say something, it's like it's important. I just think of it as like, oh, this is an interesting thought. And everyone kept it doesn't matter. Everyone twisted my words, said I said paywall when I said nothing of the sort. I said subscription. It was like I said, it was me thinking of how to empower him even further. I wasn't trying to take away from his moment. Everyone's deducting from my first two lines of what I tweeted, which was holy shit, this is amazing. Holy shit, the interview was great. Look at the amount of views. We haven't seen this before.
That's right. On a recent Joe Budden Twitter TV community space, Joe Budden and Ian kind of went back and forth after everybody called out Ian for his comments about the Shannon Sharpe Cat Williams interview. For those of you that don't know, Cat Williams and Shannon Sharpe recently did an interview, and the interview seems to be breaking the internet, garnering over 30 million views. And a lot of people have opinions on it. And one of those people was Joe Budden's manager, Ian Schwartzman, who went on Twitter and had this tweet about how Shannon Sharpe decided to disseminate the interview and how he could have maybe made it exclusive or done some type of subscription model, not necessarily a paywall. And man, people were really upset. Everybody was basically calling Ian some evil, greedy businessman. And when the Twitter community space happened for the Joe Budden podcast, Ian decided to join, and they took him to task. While Ian maintains that he didn't necessarily think Shannon Sharpe should have paywalled the content, he was just saying that, maybe Shannon Sharpe should have created a platform where he could have more control over the data, over the money, over how everything gets collected in terms of the interview with Cat Williams. But at this Twitter space, they were letting him have it. I mean, everybody and their mother with a Twitter account was just telling Ian, yo, what you did was wrong, Ian. You was foul for that. How dare you? You evil. And I kind of felt bad for Ian, but then I was like, why did Ian even show up to this? Like, you put yourself, you should have put yourself in that situation. I feel like Ian should have done his own Twitter space. It would have been a great way for him to garner a conversation about it, but I don't know. Anyway, what was shocking about this space was when Joe Budden entered and didn't really seem to have Ian's back. He called out Ian for, I guess, trying to upstage or trying to have commentary on what was a very special situation for Shannon Sharpe. And I kind of found it odd because I didn't think Joe Budden was the most celebratory of Shannon Sharpe's interview with Cat Williams. As some of the comments he made, about Shannon Sharpe's interview style was a little bit, I don't think it was like love. I thought it was kind of like backhanded. But, some people in the comments are like, no, that's not what Joe meant. You don't understand, Joe. Stop. On top of that, Ian also tried to push back and say, hey, Joe, you had some things to say about Shannon in terms of his interview style, which Joe Budden rebutted by saying, well, actually, I was just asking the cast on what they said. But I don't know. Anytime somebody says, what would you say? It's often their opinion and they're trying to mask it as others. Because Joe Budden did say Shannon Sharpe shouldn't have had cards when he was interviewing Cat Williams, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. You can have cards when you interview people. I don't know where it says that in the handbook. Let me know. Do you think Joe Budden was paying homage to Shannon, or was he just critiquing him? Maybe he was envious that somebody who he interviewed was able to go on another platform and get millions more views. I know Joe Budden interviewed Cat Williams, but it was Zoom, so that immediately, I think, creates a ceiling on the type of interview you can have if the person's not in studio. However, I've been kind of thinking about this when I was listening to this, is like, does Joe Budden ever hold any of his friends down? Granted, Ian may have been right, he may have been wrong. I feel like I've never seen a situation where Joe Budden stepped up for somebody completely and went to bat for the home team. He always seems to try to show the other side, whereas his friends, man, they'll jump out the window for him. Even if he's wrong, they'll be like, oh my God, Joe is amazing. Joe, y'all don't understand Joe. He has a beautiful mind. I know he did that, but you got to understand where he's coming from. Whereas with Joe, if it's Rory, if it's Ian, I feel like he's always kind of trying to be the devil's advocate. And I think in this situation, man, he didn't seem too home team for Ian. I thought he was going to ride for Ian. Instead, he was agreeing with the people trashing him. Instead, he was agreeing with the people who were critiquing him. I feel like Ian's advice was from a good place, and I kind of get what he meant. And it's important to note that he didn't say paywall the interview. He just meant create a platform where you could maximize whatever the greatness is of that interview. And that even though YouTube is a great platform, there's certain information that YouTube does not give you, which can be beneficial to your metrics. But that's my video for today. Let me know what you think in the comments. It was a fascinating discussion, and I quite honestly think Ian should stay away from those types of spaces because it becomes more of a racial discussion as opposed to a business discussion. And I don't think the people critiquing him sometimes, I don't think they have the best interest of the discussion at heart, and it becomes slapping somebody on their back more than trying to get to the bottom of something and doing the science. But follow me on Twitter to Stop TV. Follow me on Instagram to Stop TV. I got more content coming. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.